Welcome to Nitpicking Nerds, and it's time for Budget Bombs!
Powerful commander cards for under $1.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, BZ, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds, bringing you not budget bombs every day, but videos every single day. And if you want to support these videos every single day, there's names scrolling, and that's because they're from our Patreon, and you can join them in the link in the description.
Yes, and if you would like to be a patron, you go there, you become a patron, and you can have your name scroll right here. Or, you can get your shout out where you can be the patron of the day. Woo! So fancy.
Channel sponsored by Moxfield.
Yes, and there's an ad in this video somewhere, but you can never predict the time code in the description. It's impossible, so don't even try.
I wouldn't even worry about it, honestly.
Yes, and happy birthday to everybody whose birthday is today. And BZ, we were just in Montreal. What did we do all weekend?
We were jamming games with fans. I got 20 games in. I kept track. It was so much fun. The venue was great. Everything was great. The food was great. But the people were also great.
Yes, and we met a specific group of people that was amazing. It was this group of people right here. It is Mary, Xavier, Georgia, and Lucas. All awesome human beings. Mary is the most positive and awesome mother I have ever met in my entire life. And each one of Xavier, Georgia, and Lucas are all awesome children.
Great people. They were super fun to play with.
Yes.
Knew how to play the game. They were great at it. I have no complaints. It was just like the most fun we've had at a tournament ever.
Yes, we had dinner with Mary every night. It was so good.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So we want to give you an extra super shout out in the video so everybody knows that you're awesome.
Yes, you are all awesome. But now we have to actually do the video, BZ. What is Budget Bombs?
It's powerful commander cards for under $1. You heard me, right?
Yes, but I was just making sure that they knew. They might have skipped the intro.
They shouldn't have, because that would be rude.
That would be extremely rude. So these are just cards that we suggest playing that some are good on a budget, but a lot of them are good in any power level. And we'll tell you when are other power levels, some are just budget cards. And let's just hop into it. First one we have, Breya's Apprentice. It comes in, it's a 2/3, and it makes a 1/1, but every single turn you can tap it to sacrifice an artifact to impulse draw the top card of your library, which means you exile it and you can play it until the end of your next turn.
Or pump a creature 2/0.
I don't care about that.
You don't care about that?
I've never seen that side activated.
Draw a card or deal 2 damage. That's a tough call.
It's really, really hard, unless I'm specifically killing somebody.
Yeah, if you got heavy artifacts, this thing's just great. I was surprised it was so cheap. There are copies selling for less than 12 cents if you really want to dig for it. There was one for like 3 cents. This card is just pretty good. In my higher power, like non-competitive, but like tuned decks, this thing still does great.
It's a bulk rare from
Horizons,
and there's so many good cards in there that when it's been opened a ton, there's a ton of things like Breya's Apprentice. This is very specific in decks. You want to be playing it in heavy artifact decks. Not just that, heavy artifact decks with disposable artifacts. So there is some niche here. It doesn't go in a ton of decks. It goes in some decks, but in the decks that want it, it's a great Magic card.
It's also impulse draw. Some decks kind of want impulse draw too, so maybe it slots into some of them.
Yes, and any impulse draw deck, if you still want some concentration.
You have a handful.
Because you don't want this just to only sack its flyer, because then it's kind of meh.
It can also sack itself.
It can,
which I don't know why, but it can.
So it can be divination, BZ.
It can be divination. We found it. Next, this is a card you may have heard of. It's Eternal Witness. For the first time ever on Budget Bombs, it's 99 cents. It's a 3-mana 2/1 that regrowths something.
This card will go up. It will. It's going to go back up again to
inevitable.
They'll all meet at some point, probably around $3, like they always do. Get Eternal Witness right now. Not only is this a staple of format, it's one of those super staples that you can just throw in any green deck and it'll perform well. I'm always happy with Eternal Witness. I love having a regrowth effect in my decks, and Eternal Witness is probably the literal best regrowth effect in the entire format.
Yeah, I can't say for sure, but this is one of the 3 most green played cards in Commander. You know what I mean? It's just this is in every green deck, and now you can get it for $2 cheaper than normal.
It's so good. I mean, it's a creature for your creature decks, and it's like I said, it is the best regrowth effect, and I think almost every deck wants at least 1 or 2 regrowth effects.
I will say, one of the only bad things I can ever say about Eternal Witness, I really wish it just wasn't in Double Masters 2, the format. It's so good. It's kind of just you lose the game half the time this thing gets played.
It's an incredible card.
I mean, there's so many cards that blink it in that format where it's just an endless loop. And what are you supposed to do? But you're supposed to take it out of your draft deck and put it in Commander.
Yes, exactly. It is amazing in Commander, obviously. Next,
Duelist's Heritage. 2 and a white for an enchantment. Whenever anything attacks, whenever things are attacking, you can give a creature double strikes. That includes yourself, which works right away, and that includes opponents. You can incentivize to attack elsewhere by going, hey, you will literally deal twice as much damage if you don't attack me.
Yeah, this one I think is a budget card. I don't think it scales up into really strong decks, and especially if you leave combat. If you leave a combat meta, this is obviously awful.
Yeah, one of those, if combos are possible, leave this at home.
Yeah, exactly. But in my budget decks, I'm in for this card. This is going to fit right into any deck that wants to be attacking. Any of those Boros aggro decks you're going to build, mono white attack decks, you're just going to get this right in there. BZ was building and working on, what's her name?
Liara Porter? Not 100% finished with that, but this was a consideration. And also, it's just like a political card, too. You don't have to really have any synergy. If you're just incentivizing opponents to jam elsewhere, they'll probably do it. It's not like it's guaranteed, but you're going to get extra damage on your opponents.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, it deals a lot of damage for a little bit of investment, right? So you just throw out this enchantment and it sits there, and it'll die eventually. But like every single turn, you can just get 1 or 2 extra damage somewhere. Sometimes 5 or 6 extra damage depending on the attack.
Yeah, you can just kill people out of nowhere too, where it's like big creature plus this coming at your opponent from somebody else just kills them.
Yeah, it's a lot of damage, and you're in full control of this. You choose when it goes off and when it doesn't go off for your opponent's creatures.
It's pretty sweet. What about another very stapley card that's a budget bomb?
Yeah, super staple. Bojuka Bog. It's been over $1 for a long time. Currently 60 cents. Land, enters tap, produces black mana, but when it enters the battlefield, it exiles a graveyard. This is just one of like the best ETB effects on a land ever, right?
It's so unbalanced compared to the rest. Like, this is kind of the Mystic Confluence of the cycle, although it's not broken. It's just like the rest of them are like, creature gains flying, +2/+0, scry 1. This one's like, exile someone's graveyard.
Yeah, target creature gains protection from a color until end of turn. It's like things that aren't very good. But Bojuka Bog, exile a graveyard is an incredibly strong effect. And I just think this goes in most black decks, especially when you're not in super duper high power and you can afford a tap land.
Yeah, 1 and 2 colors for sure. 3 colors as we get more tuned. I'm not so sure about that, but this is just a really, really stapley bread and butter land that you probably should be playing in at least one of your decks.
Yeah, I mean, even 3-color decks sometimes I think Bojuka Bog fits in pretty well. It depends on the deck, obviously.
And it's a tap land, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still playing it in Yurok, right, where I'm going to get the exile 2 graveyards, 100%. Good doing that. Yarok, whatever. It's on the screen. They knew who it was. Who's next, BZ?
That's Impulsive Pilferer, this little guy. We did a short on him forever ago. It was like our 3rd short ever, and we're on our 230th short, I think, now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he's a 1/1 for 1, dies into a treasure token, but has Encore for 3 in red. So that's 3 more doofuses attacking, 3 more tokens, 3 more ETBs, and then they all die into treasure tokens. So this thing is 1 mana with the ability to turn into 8 permanents, to be sacrificed, to be entering the battlefield, to die, whatever. That's a lot of tech for 1 mana and for like a cheap common.
I think this card is perfect for sacrifice strategies. Any deck that is going to be able to sacrifice this, put it in the graveyard, reuse it, sacrifice the treasures, get some sort of advantage out of all of that little stuff. It's the perfect home for this card. I'm not just throwing it in any deck. I need advantage out of this card. And it makes advantage. I mean, the fact that you can get so many permanents out of a 1-drop in your deck is awesome. Just make sure you're putting in the right deck. I think this is a card that you don't want to just throw anywhere, because it's like, yeah, treasures are good, but I need more. I don't just want treasures. I don't want to spend 4 mana, bring it back, and get 3 treasures. No, I want more.
You want to sacrifice.
You want to sacrifice these things and get the treasures and use them for something. There's plenty of strategies that do it. Your Jury decks, your Corvold decks, perfect for those.
Yeah, I have it in Brutaclad. Cares about the token part. This thing does make 6 tokens.
Up next, we have another great card for a sacrifice deck and Pauper All-Star. Deadly Dispute. Currently 97 cents. Now, this one's interesting because it seems like it's so similar to Village Rites, a card I would never suggest playing that I think is fairly bad. But some reason, when you add an extra mana and you get a treasure back, it's just that much better. And it makes this card, even though it reads and looks so similar, it makes it that much better.
It's functionally the same exact card. If you just crack the treasure right away, it's 1 mana to draw 2 cards. But you can sacrifice more things, and when you don't care that it costs 1 mana on the front side versus 2 mana, then you end up like netting a mana later on, and it just kind of changes a little bit of the math. Where this one is like the only one of these we play.
It's probably sacrificing artifacts that adds the extra oomph to this, right? Makes it that much better. I actually saw something funny. I saw someone who was playing Volo in their deck in draft. and Volo died, and they didn't really have that much recursion, so they sacked the journal to this, which I thought was hilarious.
Sorry, Volo, your hard work's gone to waste.
Yeah, exactly. Just get rid. I don't need this journal. This journal is worthless. I thought it was just really hilarious. And like any useless artifact, and again, sacrifice decks. If you're playing a deck that wants Icar Wellspring or that wants Michael Synth Wellspring, you want both those in your deck, then you definitely want Deadly Dispute if you're in black.
Yeah, in this draft format, I'm taking as many Deadly Disputes as I can get.
Yeah, it's such a good card, especially if you're in the sacrifice deck, right? It's made for the sacrifice deck.
And it really does. I guess evidently, like, you can obviously go see way more of an impact on every format ever than Village Rites.
Yeah, it's so much better. It's weird to me because I would have never thought that looking at the card. But I think it's providing a treasure, providing a permanent onto the battlefield that just makes that much of a difference.
Yep. Scavenging Ooze is next. It's 27 cents now, which is still an all-time low. And it's a bear. Then you pay green to exile a card from a graveyard. Great. But if it's a creature, you gain 1 life and it gets a counter. This thing, I think, is especially good in budget, because it's going to be more like generically useful, and then just you can snipe cards in the graveyards. You can just kind of make a big thing. It gets counters, it gains life, it does a bunch of little stuff. I think it's annoying to deal with for a lot of decks.
Yeah, I think the decks for this is counters decks. That's why I want this card. If I'm playing, I know this isn't budget, but if I'm playing a Hardened Skills or Hardened Skills type effect in my deck, that's where I want Scavenging Ooze. I want to make it a little better. It's a little, as a vanilla and like doing its thing, it's fine, it's okay, it's even good. But it's great when you can make the counters even more. If the life gain triggers stuff in your deck, if you could take advantage of any of the little things, like it's already a good card. I could see generically throwing it into a deck, but as soon as you add anything else to it, it's like, okay, now this is a great card.
I think I like the generic Scavenging Ooze on a budget. I think that makes more sense.
That makes sense, yeah. Just play generic Scavenging Ooze in any budget deck, you can really go for it. And then if you're like looking to push up in power level, make sure it's got a little bit of synergy with your deck. That makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. So instant speed token making, speaking of Scavenging Ooze, it's kind of hard to do. In Magic, you can't play Secure the Waste on a budget. You can't play Grand Crescendo on a budget, but you can play Decree of Justice, which is a cycler that makes X tokens, or March of the Multitudes, which is green and white, and has Convoke and makes X 1/1 lifelink tokens for 17 cents for Decree and 56 cents for March of the Multitudes. Both can be super effective and just end the game the exact same way as the other two.
Yeah, Decree Justice is cool because you cycle it, you get your card back, and then you get that many tokens. Which
can't be countered.
It also can't be countered. Just a nice little effect for making tokens, and I love these instant speed ways to make tokens because, honestly, making it at the end of turn right before your turn lets you just untap and win a lot of the time.
Surprise! It's just this plus Overrun.
Yeah, exactly. March of the Multitudes, I'm even bigger fan of than Decree. March lets you obviously turn all your mana into 1/1s, but also lets you turn any untapped creatures also into 1/1s. This is also a great out of nowhere one. You just pass with all your mana up, you pass with all your creatures untapped, and then you untap with double the amount of creatures you just had.
You could basically just remove Convoke from this and have the spell say, make X tokens, but first you double the creatures you control, and then you make more. It's just like, this card really goes in on tokens, and I would play it out of budget. Decree of Justice kind of budget exclusive, I think.
Yeah, there's also, you can start with nothing on your board, and like say you untap like 10 mana, you can play a couple token makers and then pass, and then March of Multitudes to make even more tokens to go with them because you just don't have to spend any mana on this card if you have green and white creatures.
Yeah, you got 10 mana, you spend 3, cycle Decree, then you make, what? You have 7, you make 4, 5, 6 even, however many white pips are in March of the Multitudes. But you make 5 or 6, and then you can Convoke and make 5 or 6 more.
Yeah, but you need to make sure you have a green creature in there somewhere.
Well, you just leave a green mana up is what I was doing.
Oh, okay, you were leaving 1 green mana up. That makes sense also. Up next is a pseudo board wipe, and it's Ixidron at 17 cents. 5 mana creature, when it enters, you turn all creatures face down. Oh boy, I hope you know all the interactions with flip cards, because I don't, certainly off the top of my head, but it essentially turns all creatures into 2/2 creatures that can't be turned face up because they don't have the ability morph or manifest or any of that stuff.
Yeah, 90% of them are just stuck as that. And the weird thing is, you have to know which commanders are where at any given moment. Even if they're morphed or anything, you have to know which object is a commander, so you can just not block the commander 2/2, take 2 commander damage and just have them stuck in play forever.
Yeah, regardless of anything, you know what every single face down creature is. They can't swap them places. They can't try and trick you. You just know what they are. Like, if you really wanted to, you could just note it.
Right, because you assign them all. You could assign them all numbers, and then this is face down number 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly the face down card number 1 is blank, and you know that, and it can't change. And if they try and change it, it's cheating.
Right.
So
I'll block the Grave Titan face down creature.
So when they attack you, and you go, which one is that, and they won't tell you, it's like, well, I know what it is. I could have.
Come on.
Are you really gonna be that way because I didn't write it down?
Yeah, they're not going to be that way because that would be mean. But I think Ixidron is like an underplayed kind of thing. It's basically a blue board wipe. If every creature is going to be turned down as a 2/2, they all trade with each other. You're not under any pressure. Any pressure from the creatures is gone. I feel like it's kind of just threats dealt with.
Ixidron's also big, so it blocks all the 2/2s.
Right, it'll be as big as everything else in place, so they're not going to send them at you, and then they'll just trade them off amongst themselves.
Yeah, exactly. They usually just sit back or get sacrificed or used in some other way, or they attack when they want to die, right?
Yeah, someone reminded me this card existed at Montreal.
Up next is my absolute favorite on this entire list, and it's Moxfield.com.
Got him.
It is me and BZ's favorite deck building website in the entire world. We use it to build all of our decks. I have every single one of my decks on that site. It is great. You go there, you can look at your deck however you see visually pleasing. There's like 4 different settings for how you want to look at your decks. If you need to read the cards, you can make it so you can see the full card. If you know what the cards do just by looking at them, you can just, put it down so you can just see the names, and then you can process it like that. Maybe you want it in text form. Maybe that's what's best for you. However you see fit, you can organize it like that. I use it to add and cut every single card from my deck. I organize by mana value, by mana cost, how much it's worth price-wise if I'm working on a budget deck.
Yeah, and what I've been doing is I'm starting to finally go through and update all my decks on there, and then make sure that all my paper decks are actually on Moxfield. I didn't have my Imperial Archangel Voltron deck on there, so I was like, dang. And I updated it so everyone can see it. Someone reminded me at Montreal that my Oketra deck was a little out of date, and I'm like, all right, I got to get on there, fix everything, and so everyone can see what I'm actually playing, because it's also just so easy to do it, so it's really not that inconvenient to me. And I want to say that I do like the new feature of deleting cards, because I was going through this Liara Porter deck that I'm brewing up, and I just was rapidly adding and killing things. But you can hover over a card or click on it and press Alt-2, and it just deletes. You don't have to click anything, and it's just pretty streamlined.
Yes, it is an extremely efficient website with a million features that I could never tell you all of them, so go and find out for yourself. Next is Persist, 92 cents. 1 in a black, return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. Make sure it's not a legend, because you can't return legends.
That's what I did.
Easy. And it has a -1 counter on it.
Yeah, this is a really cheap way to reanimate something. This has got to be the budget reanimate. It's less than $1. As long as it's not legendary, it just gets anything back.
Yeah, exactly. It's a reanimation spell. It has the downside of not getting back legend, so that's what's holding this card back from being quite amazing. It's an amazing card for returns legend. Instead, it's just a really good card instead of the perfect little card. It puts -1 counter. That doesn't matter. Whatever you're returning, I've never seen it matter. Just like Animate that gives -1, -0. It's never mattered in the history of time.
Yeah, exactly. This is a budget version of Animate Dead, budget version of Reanimate. Super bread and butter. Obviously, you know what decks you want this in. It's just a great card.
It's a graveyard deck card, yeah, exactly. Anything where you're filling up your graveyard, you're throwing big fat fatties in there, let's reanimate them. This card, I think, is mainly a budget card. I don't really go to it off of a budget, but for budget decks, I'm 100% in for it.
100% in. How about Fallen Shinobi, which I did not realize was 71 cents.
Yes, it just got reprinted in a deck. That's why it was getting up to $4 or $5, and it got reprinted in a pre-con, and now it's just back down to a nice 71 cents. This card is incredible. It's a 5/4. It costs 5, but if you can ninjutsu it for 2 black/blue, which means if there's an unblocked creature you have attacking, you just put it back in your hand, put this on the battlefield, tapped and attacking that player, and when it hits, you exile the top 2 cards of the library, and you can play them without paying the mana cost until end of turn. I'm a huge fan of Fallen Shinobi. Just make sure you have creatures that are going to sneak through. If you're not the kind of deck that's sneaking through damage or getting in for combat damage, I'm not in for this card. I want creatures that, I want little flyers. I want little unblockable creatures, things like that. And then Fallen Shinobi is a great Magic card.
Basically, just make believe this thing has no mana cost, so you can't cast it. You have to ninjutsu it. Because as soon as you're doing that, it's amazing. And as soon as you're not doing that, it's right up there with every other crappy creature. that has a great attack, combat damage trigger, and you're going, how do I get this? It's like, nah, forget about it. Just always ninjutsu it. You skip all of the waiting. It's so good. You can just steal some really good stuff. And if you're not, you're jamming 5 damage in, and you're getting something.
Yeah, you really don't cast this for 5 mana. I've done it like once, and I've ninjutsu'd it like 150 times.
Yeah, way more than that, probably.
Like I ninjutsu this card all the time, but I never cast it. Like I think literally one time ever I've cast as the creature.
And I'm sure you were desperate.
Yes, I was desperate, of course, because why else would I play this crappy creature?
Right, it's really crappy without ninjutsu.
Yes, but ninjutsu is amazing.
Play it in the decks with evasive creatures.
Your turn.
It's Mystic Reflection, a card I've become very fond of. It's 74 cents, and it's 1 in a blue, and it's got foretell, and you can unforetell it for a blue. But it's choose target non-legendary creature. The next time 1 or more creatures would enter the battlefield this turn, they enter as the thing you targeted. So if somebody plays Raise the Alarm to make 2 1/1s, you can respond and go, hey, I'm going to target Fallen Shinobi. They both enter now as Fallen Shinobis.
You know what my favorite move is with this? That is really cool is you go Avenger of Zendikar. It enters, trigger on the stack, target Avenger of Zendikar, and then you make a number of plant tokens equal to your land. But no, wait, all those plants are Avenger of Zendikars, and now plants. They trigger and make plants. It's so cool. Such a nice little okay, we need the board wiper, we're dead.
Yeah, it's worth noting that it's only the next time, so it's not like you make an infinite number of Avengers Zendikars. The first batch of plants are Avengers because they all enter at the same time, and it says 1 or more. Then everything else after that doesn't work because it's only the first or the next time. I have done even at Montreal, I went, I think I encored Impulsive Pilferer and targeted Diluvian Primordial. So I got 3 of those.
Oh.
And it was just fantastic. If you can make multiple tokens at once easily, this card's great, and it shuts off commanders and locks them on the field, which is my favorite thing.
Yes, it also is like a weird counterspell that just makes whatever stupid, annoying giant creature that was going to beat you into the worst thing that was on the battlefield, a 2/2 knight even.
Yeah, no ETBs either. It just enters as a stupid knight.
Yeah, I like to not something about this card. Try to not target your own creatures with it, because you're targeting the wrong creature. But when you target your creature, it puts you at a high risk of a 2-for-1.
It does, but as long as shields are down and you got a counterspell, then it's just
yeah, be careful with it.
Not so.
Yeah, it's more of just a be careful with this card than anything. Next is Klauth's Will, which is 64 cents. X in 3 pips, which are some combination of green and red.
I'd say 2 red, 1 green. That's my guess.
It's one of those two. Or it's 2 green and 1 red.
We're not even. This is the second triple pip that we're like, I don't know.
I don't know. It's one of those.
Doesn't matter.
It really doesn't affect this card at all because this card says you can deal X damage to all non-flying creatures, or you can destroy X artifacts and or enchantments.
And if you control your commander, you do both.
Yes, exactly. So this card's really good, especially if your commander has flying. I'm a big fan of preserving my commander with this card, but it's also a great way to just get a 3-for-1, a 4-for-1, a 5-for-1, a 6-for-1, depending on how much mana you're throwing into this card. And sometimes even more than that when it's actually a board wipe. Sometimes you just go I'll throw 6 mana into this, destroy the 6 best artifacts and enchantments, and
3 best? Or throw 9 mana into this.
Throw 9 mana into this, I guess. Yeah, it's 6 mana. X is 6. X equals 6 is what I meant. I'll destroy the 6 best artifacts and enchantments and basically every creature on the battlefield.
And that's probably all artifacts and enchantments, unless somebody's got a specialized thing.
I mean, it's going to be the best ones. It doesn't even matter.
Leave the signets, it doesn't matter.
If I can destroy the 6 best artifacts and enchantment, it's going to be fine.
Yeah, it's going to be good. This is Healing Eyes Intervention with a pricier upfront cost and then a way higher upside on the if you control your commander side.
Yeah, I think this card is much worse because it's in 2 colors. You can't play it in as many decks, and the fact that that 1 extra pip I think adds a lot to bring this down from Healing Eyes Intervention. But it's still a great and very strong card.
We play it all the time and on a budget. Can you really beat this?
No. This is a great budget card for sure. 100%, I'm playing this in my green red budget decks. I mean, as I build up in power level, I could see cutting this. I've not been super impressed with it outside of budget decks, but I'm always impressed with it in a budget deck.
And a card I did not know was currently 18 cents because it recently dropped down. Benevolent Offering. We talk about this kind of frequently. It's 3 and a white for an instant. You make 3 1/1s and gain 2 life for each creature you control. Then you give out life, and you give out 3 1/1s, and you can make separate players, make a friend, whatever. This card's just been super great. Every time I play it, I'm just super happy about it. Kind of been wanting in my combat decks where combos not a thing. I've been wanting some some life gain, keep you in the game, make some instant speed bodies. They're great to sacrifice. They're great to take the monarchy or whatever. And this card ends up being solid, even though it doesn't look very good.
100% on your side with this one. This card is an overperformer. It's a card that looks kind of medium, and, it plays kind of medium sometimes. But a lot of the times, this card's just like, what just happened? You gained 18 life, you got 3 1/1 flyers, and you gave away 2 life and 3 flyers to somebody else. This card is super duper strong. You just get so much out of this 4-mana instant that it doesn't read that well. It reads like, this is an okay card, but it plays so well every time.
Surprise factor is huge. Won me a game in Montreal.
It's won me games plenty of times. I've seen this card. I love this card, especially token life gain decks. Whoa, yeah, I'm in 100%. It's one of the best ways to gain a huge burst of life. It's also one of the best ways to make instant speed tokens.
Yeah, it's just nice in these low power games where combat matters. Bolstering your life total has more of an effect than if you're just trying to combo and race to the finish line. Then it doesn't really matter at all. This is definitely one of those combat matters, life total matters, get in there.
Yeah, 100%. And last, but certainly not least, all the non-green signets range from a price of 17 cents to 55 cents. And we talk about it all the time. Non-green signets are absolutely
Staples.
100% staples of this format. We're in for them every single time. If I'm not playing green, I'm playing signets almost every single deck I build.
Yeah, it's almost a PSA because I know a lot of the signets have been expensive. They've been doing a really good job of printing these into the dirt. There's 15 printings of every signet now. And I just wanted to do this friendly reminder to you, the viewer, that you can get all of them for nothing. And They're all budget bombs.
Yes, and just a friendly reminder before we say the last thing here. All non-green we're talking about. We're not advocates for green, even on a budget. You can do better ramp rides. I can always, if you are struggling with a ramp package for your green deck, DM me on Discord.
I'll give you 15 suggestions.
I can give you a whole package of ramp that's under $1. I have a Henty deck that doesn't even come close to wanting a signet.
Yeah, exactly. The signets are great.
And we do budget bombs every single month. Every single month. So if you want to see more of these budget bombs, you can check out our video, which was, last month. It's right here. Peace out, Tribe Scouts.